What is up, everyone? Welcome to what we are calling the First Seed Fantasy Football Podcast. I don't know, podcast, fantasy podcast, whatever. We're talking fantasy football. We are First Seed Sports. I am Kyle Krajewski, joined by my good friends Dante, Mike, and Zach. Hello, everyone. And now that August is here, we're kind of ramping up into draft season for fantasy football. Training camp's well underway. Plenty of nonsense is taking place. Mike was just talking about how he hates the random wide receiver for catching an easy target, and everybody wants to write a 5-page article about him. But either way, it's training camp. It's the only football we have right now, and we're loving it. But what's up, guys?
Oh,
How are you today?
it's almost like before we get in, it's like I don't know if you remember 2 or 3 years ago. I think Antonio Gandy Golden was getting all kinds of hype going into the season, and like it just goes to show that guy. I don't think he had a catch in the league, and he just announced his retirement this past week. It's like so yeah, I think that's a good point. You can't buy too much into the hype, but
Yeah.
it's amazing how it goes.
Most important thing, if your league mates follow you on Twitter, make sure you retweet all of it. It means nothing, but if you get that one sucker that's like, wow, I love that guy. Look at that video. You never know.
Take them a little bit earlier, and you're reaping the rewards from it. All right. So we're just gonna talk. We're just gonna talk some fantasy football. No player specifics, but at the same time, Mike, feel free to talk about Russell Wilson as at your pleasure. But we're really gonna focus on kind of league setup, draft positions, who we're target, like what we're entering our drafts thinking, stuff like that. Because as I mentioned already, it's August. People are drafting. They're drafting. Whether it's now, whether it's in a few weeks, people are already upset about a few injuries, and that's because they're drafting. But let's kick this off. I'm going to kick it to Mike, our own personal commissioner here, and ask him basically, and the rest of you guys, if you were to start a league right now, what is the first guaranteed rule that you're kicking your league off with?
Oh, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but voting on trades. That's gotta be a rule for me. I can't go into a league, especially seeing I'm getting a reaction out of you guys as well. So it's a little bit different. If you go into a league with everybody who knows what they're doing, is highly active, it should be a little bit better off. But myself, like, you join these leagues online, man, you don't know who these guys are. You don't know what's going on. Like, some guys may have advantages to like contact other guys than you do, and get trades and have ins and outs, and you never know what's going on. And you don't want to accuse grown men of cheating either. So what do? You put in voting, So that's my staple. I was gonna say full point PPR as well, but I kind of like the aspect of half point lately. I joined one of the leagues recently, and I think I have the 7th spot coming up in half point PPR. I'm pretty excited about it. So yeah, I'm going with voting on trades, man. You gotta vote on all trades. Make sure the league doesn't get corrupt.
Yeah, we have beef on that one. Strictly because I think it comes down to being able to manage your own league, and that's that's not a shot. I'm just saying I think all trades should go through unless the commissioner looks at it and says that's trash. I'm like, that is straight up a bad trade. I think you're getting um, you're just straight up losing this. Then that's when you should step in. But if it's I hate trading. I hate voting on trades. I
Another
upvote all of
another
them.
problem is that if you're in a league with a bunch of your friends and there's obviously someone that is closer with someone than someone else, they're gonna just vote with that guy just because, they see it as unfair because their friend sees it that way.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, we're all grown men, we all look at the stats and we should all make our predictions based on, what we think is going to happen. If you think trading, Pat Mahomes for Michael Pittman is the right deal to make, and I get Pat Mahomes out of it, hey man, like
I don't know.
that's
I
not
feel
my
like
fault.
this year that's not a bad trade.
Hence why you need voting, because you never know. Everybody's got different opinions, you know.
Like two names out the blue, and I get crucified.
But if I'm trading Austin Eckler for, let's just scroll all the way down, for a backup receiver in James Cook, or backup running back in James Cook, that should be like an instant veto. That's when commish should step in and be like, get that out of here. There's collusion happening. That's when trade should be vetoed. But when it's just like, yeah, I can. When somebody looks at a trade and says, yeah, I could see the thought process, it should go through. Because then you're just like, all right, yeah, then I understand. But not everybody thinks that way. Everybody is just like, oh, that makes that team better than me. I'm not voting on. I'm gonna veto that trade.
And I think, Kyle, another important point has to be like everyone has their own personal evaluations. There's a reason that we each do our individual projections and rankings of players, because, just from talking, we know that Mike is low on Russell Wilson. We know Dante is high on Hunter Renfrow. Kyle, we know you love your Lions. Like everyone has a different opinion when it comes to players. So I think that that's something that needs to be respected. In talking about it last year, and we had some controversial trades that got vetoed here and there. It's a hard system to perfect for sure, because you do want something in place where lopsided trades can be declined on behalf of the league. But I think something that and I'm not trying to burst something new on the scene here, but something that we talked about, or that I kind of thought through, was that maybe you limit the amount of vetoes that a team has per year. So you have to be frugal with the amount of vetoes that you're using. You always have that one guy that's in last place that's just bitter about every single trade because his team sucks and he's a terrible manager, but if you only gave him 2 vetoes per year, or 1 veto per year, for that really, really lopsided trade, that might be a way to alleviate some of the the guys that are heavy with the veto.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting too. I feel like for the league that we are in, it's more of like a trial and error thing. I think throughout the years we've gotten a lot better, and every year we continue to get better and better. Eventually, I only say I want voting on trades as like a doomsday system. Like you get that one trade that we just said is bogus, like it's got to get shut down. That's when it should happen. Like every trade for the most part should go through. Um, and to mention what you said, Dante, we do have some specific rules in place to like stop collusion and stop like trying to like just vote to like benefit yourself. So what we do is usually we do 3 divisions of 4, and if a trade happens, you cannot vote on the trade if you are in the person involved in the trade's division. So it kind of takes away that like, oh, I need the edge. This guy's going to lose the trade. He's in my division. Let me just say yes, so he gets the worst end of the stick. So like small stuff like that. But I agree. Like nobody wants to sit there and ruin someone's dreams unless you're a troll, and you're just in the league, like Zach said, and you're bad and the year's not looking great for you, and you're like, no, I don't want this guy to have fun.
You also get those guys that like if they quit early, they'll just give up their whole team for like scrap
You're right.
change, and it's just like, all right, well at that point, it's who knows that guy the most, or who knows
Because
that guy the
you
best,
get the old "I'll swing you $50 if I win" deal, and then that gets into a whole nother bag of worms where we don't even want to see that. That shouldn't
From
be
Black
what
Market
fans do.
When that's happening, you kick the guy out of the league.
Get out.
Yeah, you don't know though. You don't know. You don't know who does it.
I agree.
All right. Enough about voting on trades, because we all hate it except for one guy.
I think that's
Zach,
a great rule, though.
To an extent. Zach, what's a rule you would add?
I'm going to go ahead and advocate for FAB budget, and that stands for free agent acquisition budget. So I guess I just called it FAB budget. But what that is, for those of you who don't know, is they give you $100. Your site gives you $100 worth of free agency money. It's made up money. You don't have to actually pay it. There's usually no reward. Some leagues do it if you have leftover at the end, but by and large, most leagues don't. And it's just a nice way to go about doing free agency. After week 1, when that guy goes off and he's going to be a year-long starter. I'm thinking of like Austin Eckler a couple of years ago. Help me out. Who was someone last year, guys? Can you think of anyone off the top of your head?
Cordarrelle Patterson.
Sure. Cordero Patterson, absolutely. Yeah. He's that kind of Fab gives you a chance to get in on that kind of guy, even if you might be the most active person in your league where you're always making pickups.
Gives everybody an even shot at the waivers.
Absolutely. So to kind of give an example, like last year, if Cordero Patterson would have been on the waiver wire and all four of us here would have wanted to go after him, I don't have any idea what the other guys are going to bet or bid on him. So maybe Mike puts $5, Dante puts 6, Kyle puts 10, and I just want to be safe and I put down maybe 20 on him, and then it would go through and the system takes a look at it and it says, all right, well, I put down 20 and that was the most out of everyone. So I'm going to be the one who is awarded that player. And if it comes down to a tie, then it goes to your waiver order after that, which is, I think, fair. But I'm a huge advocate of Fab budget. I do still have some leagues where I do go by rolling waivers, which I think is, which I do still like to an extent. But I think Fab is nice, especially in leagues where everyone is competitive, everyone's paying attention week in and week out. You don't have those guys that are just logging on Sunday and are setting their lineups for Sunday. It helps keep the league engaged as a whole. So that's the rule that I'm going to go ahead and advocate for today.
I'm a fan of Fab budget, because, like I said, it gives everybody a fair shot. It's fun. It's really exciting. It gives everybody something to wake up to. Like, not only are you just putting in a bid, you're like you would with regular rolling waivers. You're like, I'm gonna spend this much, and I really hope I get it. I really hope I beat out the next guy, because it's like a little extra added competition every
Right.
Wednesday morning that those waivers clear during
And
the
Kyle,
season.
I was going to say it also takes the fantasy week and changes it from just being Thursday, Sunday, Monday to being Thursday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because you're looking and
Yeah.
you're actively engaged on those 2 extra days of the week. It's awesome.
My Mondays and Tuesdays are spent looking at everybody else in my leagues, how much they have left and how much they're probably going to put on the top waiver prospect that week. And then I'm just like, all right, I'm going to beat out this guy because I need him a little bit more. I really want him. And it's just fun to wake up or like wait until the time we have it set for 11 in our one league at 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning and be like, all right, who's going to win him? Who's getting this guy? Who's spending way too much? We had a guy pay $80 for Antonio Brown 2 years ago when he came back mid-season, and it's just because then we just all hit the group chat, roasted him, and it was like, all right, cool, you lost, like that, you overspent, and it adds so much more fun to the league. In my personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan too. The worst thing I think that you could absolutely do is the default ESPN option, which is last place gets first go at waivers. That's like, man, like and obviously I don't think any of us have touched the ESPN default league in a long, long time. We're evolved at this point. That's what happens when you become an adult. I think you get rid of that kind of stuff. But it's like, man, I wish I knew back then just to tank the first 3 weeks, so then I would get like the best guy. Because realistically, in waivers, man, I mean, the gold is going to come in that first 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then you just want to make sure you have some for playoff time, just in case something happens, injuries and whatnot. But the real stars you're going to get in those first 3 weeks. Why not tank and, just grab the first guy off the waivers? A few years back, it was James Conner when he was a rookie with the Steelers. Nobody even knew about him. And Le'Veon holds out. James Conner's top 5, Just 2 years ago, it was James Robinson. Man, maybe
league winners.
James's, who knows?
Who's a James? James Cook. Oh, we found him. Wow. Draft him.
Never know.
We've cracked the code.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the budget, man. It's so much fun, and obviously everybody has different ways of thinking about it too. So, like you said, it's just fun to like wake up and see like, wow, that guy like really undersold, or like, oh wow, I spent my bread, I got who I wanted. It's a fun thing. It adds some fun to the league, and I think it's the best way too.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. The only interesting part to me is when a player like a superstar gets hurt, like a Christian McCaffrey or a Dalvin Cook, and then you get the people that will literally like spend all of their money on like a Deontay Foreman or like
Chuba Hubbard from last year. Yeah,
Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, exactly. Or Alexander Madison. That's the guy I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see who will spend that money, that much money, like $80, if they only have $100 for the year, and like Dalvin Cook will come back 2 weeks later, and then they're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think that's the funny part.
Well, and
Yeah.
Kyle, just to butt in real quick, there are like for those of you that do transition to a fab budget, there are certain articles and certain pieces out there that'll be a weekly basis that'll tell you what percentage of your fab to bid on certain players. So if Dalvin Cook does go down, some articles will literally tell you to spend 40% of your fab, and then you do the math, whether that's $40 or whether you're out of a 200 budget and that's $80, whatever it is, and they'll tell you how much to spend or how much they feel you should spend. So that's something
Is
you could
that
always look out for too.
is that a preview of some Zach Cole articles we'll be
It
seeing
might
this
be.
season?
It might be. Although I don't know. I swing and miss on a lot of people with my fat budget. I put in. I think I had some claims for some questionable people last year. 1 week wonders. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Don't we all? All right, Dante, up to you, my man. What's your favorite league rule? If you were setting a league, what's like the number one? You're like, I'm building the league around this rule.
So I have yet to be in a league that invokes this, but I would love to be in a league that has a league punishment. So if we had like my league punishment would be an open mic event, like at the Comedy Cellar or something like that, like something like super prestigious, where like I know they're gonna get crucified as soon as they step on stage, like with something like, "Oh, I'm just here because of my fantasy." Like they're just gonna get booed right off the stage, and I want that anxiety for them. I want all that. I mean, other comparisons could be, 12 hours at a McDonald's or like a Waffle House. That's a popular one. Doing the combine drills, or like doing sprints or conditioning tests. You could be creative with it, but I think it's important to have a league punishment because it challenges people that are like easy quitters for the beginning of the season. It kind of like gives them motivation to like not like try to get last place or like not give up.
Kyle and Mike, real quick, let me hear. I have one in mind too, so I want to hear what your guys' favorite punishment is that you've seen recently.
I don't think I've even seen it. Just the thought of it, I've been craving to have in our league the SAT punishment, where the loser has to take the SATs. For some reason, it's perfect, because then the rest of the league hangs out. I'm just picturing hangs out, has a picnic outside waiting for the loser to just basically mope their way through, what is it, like 4 or 5 hours, taking a test that they've already taken, and just hanging out waiting for them. And then when they come out, they celebrate. You go crazy. But then like just think about being that person. I think that shame of sitting in that classroom with like people that are
16, 17-year-olds,
almost 10 years young, almost 10 years younger than you, sitting in that room taking the same test as them, has got to be equally matched with going up in front of a comedy show and saying, I'm here as a joke. Have like this means nothing. I think that shame has to be super equivalent, if not even worse. And I love that so much.
I don't know, dude, because you're not the center of attention. You're not trying to be the center of attention. If you're going to the SAT test, you're like hoodie up, you know what I mean? Maybe shades on, and we're playing tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, but you lose your day. I think like I don't know.
No, I get it. No, in terms of the longevity, like 100%. Like that, taking the SAT is one of the worst tests in terms of just sitting there I've ever experienced. But yeah, I mean, there's something about like, especially because people are really like have anxiety issues. So like, it's just nice to like just put that at the forefront and make them see them squeal. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm diabolical like that. I just like people like
cruel.
Yeah, I just want them like, especially when they're like getting like made fun of too. It's like, oh yeah, like that's what you get for like losing, man. Like you're a loser. So,
yeah. Mike, let me hear you.
See, it's kind of hard. There's so many good ones out there. Dante, it's funny you mentioned it. We're actually making our league loser do a stand-up skit this year as well. But I don't know. I'm on board for the more embarrassing stuff. I'm not really on board with the physical punishments, like make someone run a mile or do this. Like it's not really funny to see that. Like I'd laugh a little bit, but I like to see someone get embarrassed. And I know the worst thing for me as a kid growing up, even now, for the most part, would be having to go up in front of a group of 100 some people and give a speech. I could do it and I can get through it fine, but that whole night and day before, I'm gonna be stressing out, and everybody knows that feeling. Like, oh no, the next day I gotta present in Mrs. So and So's class. Like, you're up that whole night with anxiety, and that's the type of punishment I'd go for. So I don't really have a favorite. There's a lot of good ones out there. There's some extreme ones that I'm totally against, like tattoos and crazy stuff like brandings and yeah, not on board with that stuff, but I'm more on board with the embarrassing stuff, kind of like Impractical Joker style. That's the kind of stuff I would like.
I think my favorite one that I've seen recently, and Kyle, I'll keep this nice and short, but we're all East Coast guys here, and I saw a bunch of guys that made their buddy buy a plane ticket to like San Diego, and he had to fly to San Diego and then just come back. Like that just sucks.
Oh
Like you have to get on the
no.
plane, you have to fly to the other side of the country, literally just land at the airport and turn around and get right back on the plane and come
I like
back.
that. I like that only because if I were the loser, I would miss my second flight and just enjoy in this spot for a little bit longer.
Exactly.
I saw another
Exactly.
one today. I think it was a league that was from Minnesota, maybe. And they made their loser go down to Iowa, which is just a couple states away. And his only mission was to find and pet a dog. They didn't give him they didn't give him any specifications on how to get there, on what to do, but he had to go to Iowa, pet a dog, and come back. I just feel like wasting someone's time
That's
is a good punishment too. Like no one's getting hurt.
oh.
It's just a waste of time, and I think that's a good punishment.
Yeah, it's fun for kids too. Like I would say if you guys are a younger group of friends and like you guys are younger, like have fun. I feel like as you get older now, the loser of the league does get punished because he loses all of his money.
That's true.
And
That's
as an
true.
adult, that's like,
Like,
excuse me,
oh.
that's like the worst part. So like, but nah, that the airport one is new. I haven't heard that one. That's kind of funny.
I just feel like that'd be awesome, send someone to freaking San Diego just to get off and come back, and like for the whole league, if he shared the location the day of, and you're just watching him, you're like, oh, he's over in Nebraska right now, just
I
watching
think
him go.
what you add to that is you make them wear something funny, whether it's like a shirt that just announces that they are the fantasy football loser, just like something to make them stand out. Because I was just in an airport like a month ago, and walking through, you're just like, all right, that guy's weird. Trying to get that because kind of going back to Dante's comedy show thing, like you want them to feel punished. You want them to feel punished and not like just like, oh, I'm taking a trip. So to add
Dude,
that
even
little
San Diego is kind of like positive. Like if it were me, like if I was
Yeah.
a loser, you gotta send me to like Little Rock, Arkansas, like with like BLM like all over my body. and I gotta go to like the KKK like headquarters, like all of it. You guys gotta like
I'm with
torture.
I'm with Dante. Like you gotta
know
like
what I
send
mean?
them and make them do something like petting the dog, but maybe make it a little bit more drastic where it's just like, yeah, you gotta like go into the town square of like a random town in Iowa and like hold up the sign where it's like you don't know this town, but you have to go there and like
just
make a fool of yourself.
corn in the middle of Iowa.
Have you guys? I'm assuming you guys have. Have you seen the movie Borat? The Borat movies.
Yeah.
You know the swimsuit he wears, the literal strap. That would also be good to send
The
somebody to
banana
the beach
hammock.
with that on. Just let him chill out on the beach, walk the boardwalk for a little bit with that swimsuit. That would be a good one as well.
Any skit from Borat or Bruno would be a great punishment.
Well, no, true, but I think you take that. You have to think when the fantasy football league ends, when the season ends, and it's like the winter. So you make them wear
Even
that.
better.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You make them wear the skinny bathing suit that goes over their shoulders, and you make them do a polar plunge.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
No,
And you
All
could
right,
even
good
do
call.
some good with that too. Have them donate to a cause or something. You know, that could
Exactly.
be, that could turn out to be a positive and a negative at the same
There's
time.
plenty. There's plenty you could do. All right. Moving away from some league punishment. I didn't get to mention my favorite league rule. I'm just gonna say I really like Superflex. I'm falling in love with it. That's probably my starting point. And I'm not gonna let you guys comment on that because I know we all like Superflex. So moving on. We're going to talk about our favorite draft positions this year. 2022, looking at the draft board, I know we've done plenty of mock drafts, and I think Mike and I are probably going to do one tomorrow morning, Mike. We'll talk about that later.
That's good with my schedule.
All right. Either way, favorite draft position, like if you had the full free choice to make the decision on where you were drafting this year, 1 through 12-man standard league, PPR, all that basic stuff. Which pick are you choosing? I'm going to start with Dante.
I would go. Can I do a range of picks, or do you want me to pick a number?
Let's talk about it. Let's hear everybody's thoughts. You go for it. You pick whatever you want.
So I'd rather the 1 through 4 range, just so I can get that elite running back. And then, so in my mock drafts that I've been doing, I've always just been going 2 running backs off the bat, and then grabbing Michael Pittman early because he never goes past the 3rd round. And that's someone I'm really looking at heavily this year. But I like the first 4 because I get that awesome running back in a scarce position already, and the wide receivers are just so deep that I can hold back a little bit, as opposed to in the later rounds, getting a Devontae Adams or Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, they go in the middle of the 1st round anyways, so it's you can still pick them at my place, obviously, but I just prefer getting those Jay Taylors, McCaffreys, Derrick Henrys. Those guys are just more valuable to me. So I'd rather have those first 4 picks just so I can get that guy, double up our running back, maybe even triple up, and then just focus on wide receivers down the road.
I dig it. Yeah, let's see. If I had to pick one, I'm kind of falling in love with kind of the back end of the draft. Just that 9 through 12 range. I know that is 4 picks, so let's say 10 to 12. Just because you kind of get your choice, I'm just looking at ADP right now. 10 through 12 is Joe Mixon, Devontae Adams, and DeAndre Swift. And I feel like those 3 guys alone are beautiful. It's so hard because I feel like you could say this any year, but I feel like every pick in the 1st round is really solid, but then you kind of have to think of what you're getting on in return. So I don't know, let's say pick 10, go Joe Mixon. Then kind of on the backswing, you get Javonte Williams, probably Stephon Diggs. I really like the prospect of that back end getting 2 really, really solid players, and just kind of getting that really good foundation on your team. And I'm with you, Dante. I've been really loving the start of running back. However, if I see, it's primarily Diggs, because after him, it's really CeeDee Lamb, Debo, and I don't really love those guys as much as I do the running backs going in the 2nd round. But if I get Mixon, and then Diggs comes back to me in the 2nd round, taking him. But if it's not him, then I'm taking Chubb. I'm taking Javonte Williams. And honestly, nowadays it looks like Alvin Kamara is making his way back into that area. And I love it because that's a fantastic 1-2 punch at the running back position. And then you kind of fill in receiver as you kind of go down.
All right, nothing really more to add for me. I think, quite honestly, I think my favorite stack in that back end. I was going to mention the back end is one of my favorite places as well. I love the stack of Mixon and Swift. If you can potentially land both of them, now I know the odds of that happening are a little slim, but I love those 2 combined together. I also love Najee Harris in that range, especially if you compare him with one of those 2 guys I just mentioned as well. And the back end, I'm a little bit more of a heavier proponent of going to RB back there, going running back. But I also don't hate the Kelsey pick. If you happen to get a little cute and decide to want to go tight end early. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Mike, you have anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, there's.
I heard Mike likes the first overall pick. He's a big first overall kind of guy.
Hey, and you literally took the words out of my mouth. I would. So for me, I would go. I kind of like everywhere. Like, like you just mentioned as well, Kamara makes things interesting this year. He's back in the mix now. They're pushing the trial back to next year or whatever the case is, a few months down the road now, if you haven't heard. So he's going to be back in the mix. I'm assuming initially probably middle of the second round, and he'll slowly day by day start making his way up the chain there. So the back end's nice. The double running back that you mentioned would be beautiful. And I just think with the recent news with CeeDee Lamb as well, with that team, like there really is a realistic chance that the guy could be the most targeted player in football this year. And that's just something, like, if you go running back and CeeDee Lamb, those last picks, like, that's beautiful, I'm more interested in the first two. I want to start my draft with Jonathan Taylor or McCaffrey, and I want to have a shot at either Kelsey or Andrews on the way back, depending on where you draft. I know ESPN right now, with their rankings and stuff, you're going to get a shot at Kelsey and Andrews coming back in that second round at the 1-2 pick. And, I mean, if you could start your draft with the best running back and possibly the best tight end in the draft, I mean, deadly combo. And I say 1 through 2 because after that, you got Cooper Kupp in the mix, who was wide receiver 1 last year. And it's not something I'm too interested in this year. Like, I think it's a realistic chance that he could repeat and at worst be a top 5 receiver still. Interesting fact for you as well that I brought up before the show, but Cooper Kupp is set and expected to go back-to-back this year as the number 1 receiver. Do you guys know who the last receiver was to go back-to-back number 1 years?
Antonio Brown.
That's what I was going to say.
So it was Antonio Brown. In 2016 and 2017, it was Antonio Brown. Do you know who it was before that? And I will tell you, they did it in 2014 and 2015, this guy.
Julio.
It's a good guess. Not correct. Not correct.
2 years back-to-back at number 1.
You said 2014, 2015?
Don't look it up.
I feel like Calvin Johnson's a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
So Calvin was 2013.
Okay.
Number 1.
Of course.
I'll give you a hint. He's the same exact height as AB.
Smaller guy.
It wasn't,
I guess,
Andre Johnson. No, this is too old, too much older, too much later.
My guess was going to be maybe Demaryius Thomas. He's too big, though.
Little big, yeah. Same height as AB, and I'll give you.
Give me a division or a league or something.
Who? Say that again.
Give me a division or a league or something. Help me out. Help me narrow it.
AFC North.
AFC North.
I'll give you your last hint here.
No, I don't want it.
Same birthday as AB.
Oh, wild.
Was it AB?
It was AB. Dude, I'm just messing around. It was AB. I was just shocked looking up some stuff to see that he actually was the number 1 4 years in a row, man. Like, wow. That was just crazy to me. I don't think that's going to be done for a long, long time. Like, props to Cooper Kupp, amazing wide receiver. Skill-wise, I don't think he's a top 5 in the league. So I think Antonio Brown at the time was skill-wise, everything-wise, and he dominated. And I think Calvin Johnson probably could have done it as well. I got to keep digging. Maybe he did go back-to-back when he was in the league. I'd be surprised if he didn't, but I mean, I don't see Cooper Cup doing that again. So going back to my main point, that's why I kind of cut it off at 1-2. And like I said, I kind of like the back end of the draft, like you guys were saying.
I'm curious if Le'Veon was like consecutive like running back as well during that time period. I mean, like I don't know.
That would be
I
interesting.
think he only had 1 year as the one, if my memory serves me correctly. I think he
Gotcha.
was only 1 year because you got to remember there was a year David Johnson went nuts in there too.
Mhm.
And I think
Right.
he prevented the consecutive years for Le'Veon. But real quick before I give you guys my spot, one more or two names here. Give me a receiver in the league that you guys think has the best chance to go 2 years being the number one overall wide receiver in the NFL.
In the league today,
Yep.
I'd say Jamar or Justin.
Okay. Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. Okay. Mike.
Yeah, that's going to be my two as well. I don't think
Okay.
anybody's in better spots than they are.
Kyle.
I'm gonna toss in. This is a wild card, and this would have to happen this year, next year, or the year after. Tyreek Hill.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw in Stephon Diggs. I think he and Josh Allen are great together. So I think that's just a good sign though, is that there are so many receivers and the league is in capable hands. And I think that kind of segues me into my spot that I like to draft at, and I'm a little more specific than you guys. And my spot is the 4th overall spot. It happens to be the spot that I actually have in my my league of note, and I think that it just affords you so many different opportunities at the spot. I really really love the flexibility that I have when building a roster. I especially at 4 is in the first round, it gives you the opportunity to not feel pressured because you can kind of take whoever falls to you. There's a top 4 running backs and then there's top 2 receivers. The 4 running backs being Taylor, Henry, Eckler, and McCaffrey, and then the 2 receivers being Cup and Jefferson. So you can kind of sit there and you can decide, do I want to take running back? Do I want to take receiver? And you can kind of just read whatever is left there. So it's nice. It doesn't have the pressure of 2 or 3 where you're having to choose one of the running backs and maybe you don't make the right choice. But then looking at the second round, when it comes back to you, if you decide to go receiver early, or you decide to go running back early, you can take the opposite in that second round. And really, I just feel like you can build a really robust roster moving forward with that pick. I think the cards just kind of fall nicely where you're always picking from a nice pool of players. So I'm going to say that the 4th overall pick is my favorite pick in the draft.
Now, are you always relying on like a player to fall to you in that pick, or do you have someone in mind that you're looking to get, like regardless?
So personally, I do have someone in mind. I'm not going to go ahead and say that who it is because we got to wait for that draft to happen. But it is. I do at that spot. Oh, am I good?
We lost Zach, and Zach. I'll let you know. I let them know who you were taking at 4.
Oh, damn it! All right. I don't know if it picked me up saying this, but I said it is someone that I do consistently get at that spot, so I feel pretty comfortable when I'm mocking. It's not like me relying on the 25% chance that Christian McCaffrey falls to me, or that the 5% chance that Jonathan Taylor slides. You know what I'm saying? It's not that sort of deal. But I have also done different drafts where I experiment with going running back, I experiment with going receiver, and just kind of switch it up. So, and I think that the 4th spot is nice. It's in the middle enough where you're getting a pick every roughly 10 to 12 picks that you can get the guys that you're looking for.
Bold. Yeah, I can't say. I hate going into a draft kind of saying I'm going to take this guy round 1 and this guy round 2. But at the same time, it is always nice to go in kind of expecting or having an idea of what you're going to do in these picks. When with kind of that in mind, not going in, taking one dude and only taking one dude. What are you guys doing this year kind of strategy wise? What are you thinking you're liking the most, considering we've drafted plenty of times? What I know we've mentioned starting RB, but are some of you doing early QB? Do you guys like Josh Allen in the 3rd? Are you really? Is anybody banking on Kelsey, or kind of like their chances with the Dalton Schultz? Like who do you like? What strategies are you kind of like favoring? What are you kind of going into these drafts expecting strategy wise?
So I'll just jump back in quick just because I talked about mine. I'll keep it nice and brief. But I found myself to really like the hero RB strategy, where I'm taking a running back in either round one or round two, and I'm filling out the next couple rounds with just receivers. Now, to kind of put a caveat on that, we do have a 3 receiver, 1 flex style league, and it is a PPR league, so receivers are extremely valuable in this league. So, and I found that to be a successful formula for me last year. I kind of relied on Ezekiel Elliott, and then I had Mike Evans, I had DeAndre Hopkins, and I had Keenan Allen, and that gave me such a safe floor that any given week I could bank on getting 100 points, and it was just a matter of whether my RB2 was going to kick in those extra points to push me over the edge or not. And I personally love that strategy, and I love that strategy again this year, where my first 5 or 6 rounds look like basically 1 running back and then 4 or 5 wide receivers. So that's my favorite strategy, is the hero RB strategy.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, and that's kind of what I was mentioning when I said I like that 1-2 pick. That's what I would do it with. Is I'd get my stud running back and then just build the rest. And Zach, you mentioned you did it last year. I was actually breaking it down today, as you saw. You absolutely nailed Melvin Gordon and AJ Dillon later on in the draft,
Yeah,
and they both
yeah,
turned out to be RB2s. And they were what, the 30th, 40th running backs taken off the board. So, you just got to hit. You got to hit. Draft strategies, however, I think this year I mentioned in a few earlier videos that we did that I was really trying to get a quarterback this year, like a stud quarterback early. And I want to, on camera, take that back because for my entire life, I've never done it. I've never gone quarterback early for a good reason. And it's because if you hit that late quarterback, you are golden, man. And like late quarterbacks, I'm looking at this year, you got guys like Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Tua. You could throw. I mean, I think Rush should be going down with those guys, but people think he's good for some reason, so he'll go
What?
a little bit earlier than those guys.
Mike,
But
even like Stafford and Brady and Rodgers are going pretty late this
dude,
year.
exactly, and they're all being drafted as I think Brady was QB9 in ADP, and then everybody else is like 10, 11, 12, and it's like, dude, why reach for a quarterback? Brady was quarterback 3 last year and was going in the 9th, 10th round. I mean, you just got to hit, And I tried it last year with Tannehill as well. I waited as long as possible, took Tannehill coming off of his best season of his career, and it didn't work out, And there goes your season. But for the most part, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Late QB, most likely again for me. And we were just mentioning first round picks as well. First round picks is like the only round, kind of like Kyle said, where you could kind of pick out one name in the first round. Like you could at least say, like, all right, I want this guy or this guy or this guy. After that, I think my strategy for this year personally is going to be value based. And essentially, when I say value based, essentially I mean points per game. That's really what value based is. You're looking points per game. Who's going to get you the most points on that roster? So I'm not really looking for a specific build this year, especially in the one league I'm in. I'm drafting towards the back end. So first round, I have a few guys that I have an idea on, and after that, I want as much points as possible. So I'm going to be looking value based, not really seeking out names or positions or anything like that. Kind of just letting the draft fall to me this year. I think that's the best way to do it. That's what I'm going with this year.
Yeah, I'm not really much to add. I would say I'm kind of leaning towards Zach's strategy with the hero RB. I would say that the rounds 4 and 5, I'm starting to like play around with picking a quarterback, or even round 6, like a Jalen Hurts, or I mean,
Mhm.
you got quarterbacks like Kyler Murray getting picked like late like that. So to me, it's kind of given the players that you can get in other positions, like a Kareem Hunt or a Cordell Patterson. Like I would rather just get like a Lamar Jackson at those rounds, or like again like a Jalen Hurts. He's a sleeper running quarterback that I feel like is going to have a really massive increase in production this year with the weapons that he has now. But yeah, I've been flirting around with that. But as far as like the standard, I guess routine that I'm going to go with, it's going to be like heavy running backs because again, that's just the most scarce position. It's important too because you can get the targets and the carries with it, and wide receivers are just deep. It's just a deep position. So yeah, hero RB for me.
Yeah, and I think I remember. I think I'm falling in love with early tight end, and I know previous weeks ago, probably last week, I said this that recently that I wasn't too in love with early tight end, but man, I'm running through some mocks and I'm snagging a good old Kyle Pitts. Maybe not. I haven't been getting Kelsey. He's going too early. I like the running backs and receivers around him too much. But snag a Kyle Pitts, maybe even a Waller. Kittle has been getting plenty of training camp buzz with Trey Lance, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying how my teams look, and tight ends are like my fantasy kryptonite. Every year, I tend to go later just because just how drafts work. And I get the worst guys every single year. The one time I got lucky with Austin Hooper when he was like the tight end 3. But aside from that, it's been nonsense. I think the one year I wanted to draft early, I got Gronk, and it was the year that he played like 2 games. So I think I'm falling in love with it this year. Either way, it's not like I go in and I say I'm getting a tight end early. It's all about how the draft shapes out. I go in. I like to have a tiered ranking list in front of me, and just kind of go like, all right, I want a guy in this tier, and they're all kind of ranked in the same cluster, and I just kind of take the one that gives me better vibes in the moment, really. Um, and this year, oh man, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I love our mocks. Basically, it's going to be a good year for fantasy, and I'm looking forward to beating all of you in all the leagues that we're in. You can count on that. That's a stamp of approval guarantee that I'm beating you, me personally. Probably not in Dynasty. Maybe, we'll see. Either way, yeah, early tight end I'm falling in love with. And I know we did an episode earlier about late tight ends. That's also fantastic. I love those guys too, but I think at the minute Irv Smith went down, I hated it. I was just like, early tight ends suck. I hate these guys. So started going early, kind of digging it.
Yeah.
But
I think this year, just to add real quick, the tight end like 1 tier. Obviously you got Kelsey and Andrews, but I think if you want to call it 1A, 1B, I think it's a little bit thicker this year than most years. I think there's about 5 or 6 tight ends that I could see going before like round 6 this year, and then after that, it's kind of like at least for me personally, like a big tier break off. So yeah, I'm kind of liking that as well. The early tight end does seem very very interesting this year, especially because it's not going to be too early. Whereas you saw Kelsey going a lot earlier last year. No one's going to do that again. Obviously, he finished as 2 last year, so I think it's kind of going to get pushed back their ADPs, and I think there's a wider selection. So I like what you're putting down, Kyle.
thanks for having my back, Mike. You typically do. All right. Now that we've kind of run through what we want to talk about today, hopefully you tuned in. Hopefully you kind of got a good idea of what we like in building a league, league rules. You can kind of come to your commish and propose, especially Fab. That's a number one priority in my opinion. I think that's just fun. Adds a little bit more flavor, and send your league loser to Oklahoma. Get him stuck in a tornado or something, or her. And I don't know. I'm just looking forward to having a lot of fun this fantasy season, and that's what we're here to do. Help you guys have fun. And I know Dante's looking forward to coming in last now that we're going to establish a cool league
I
punishment.
do not want to go to the South, man. Just anywhere
All right, we'll send you so far north you go south. How about that? So, all right, does anybody else have any parting notes they want to send to the world?
Man, not really.
Tonight,
I
at
mean,
least.
thank you guys for tuning in, man. If you guys have any questions coming up, like obviously it gets very stressful this last month. Everybody's going to be mocking for the most part, at least like a week before, probably once a day at this point. Send us some questions on Twitter, man. If you ever want a mock draft, reach out. If you got league punishment ideas, or if you liked any of ours, let us know. And yeah, we're here for you, man. Use what's available. We'll be throwing as much information at you as possible this past month. Let's get it done.
Yeah, send us mock draft invites. We'll always jump in. But yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for tuning in. We are First Seed Sports. Follow us on socials at Instagram at First Seed Fantasy, Twitter at First Seed Sports, and then don't forget to use our code First Seed on Underdog Fantasy. Get a free deposit match. You drop $100. You use our code, you get an extra $100. That's free money. Give it a shot. It's best ball. You draft and you don't have to touch that team again. Zach's pointing to it down there.
Here we go.
He knows the deal. We all know the deal. I'm currently in 4 right now. It's fun. I love it. I can't stop drafting. And it's a great tool to I use it as a mock draft, honestly. It's a great way to see how real people are drafting. And if nobody else has anything else to say, thanks for tuning in. Talk to you next time.